Okay, Ecclesiastes chapter 11. It's actually, I don't know if funny is the right word, but it's kind of funny that the power is out because of what I'm preaching on today. So, the title of my message is, He that observeth the wind shall not sow. Starting there in Ecclesiastes 11 verse 1, the Bible says, Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. And that's not really part of, I thought it wasn't really part of the message, but there's two ways you can look at what that's saying. Cast thy bread upon the water, that maybe does have both meanings. To me, many times I've read it sounds like something where you're commanded to be generous, right? You cast your bread upon the waters and it'll come back to you. But in the context of this, it's talking about sowing and planting seed. So casting that bread, it might be just casting your seed of your bread upon moist soil or upon the waters. In verse 2, Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. Now, and reading this verse in the past, I think, well, this is talking about, either about saving money or about, putting away food and so on. And I think it has to do, in this context of seeding, is put a portion of your seed away, because if your crop fails, you're not going to have anything to replant with. I think that's also a meaning that could apply to this. But it definitely makes sense to give a portion to 7 and also to 8. It sounds like you're putting a certain amount of whatever away, is what I understand. Verse 3, If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. Sounds like it's pretty obvious, right? But there's a reason why he's stating obvious here. If the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. You wonder, why is he telling us that? Yeah, if the tree falls to the north, that's where it's going to be. Or if it falls to the south, that's where it's going to be. He's telling us, you don't have any control over it, and what happens, happens. Okay? Because in the next verse it says, He that observeth the wind shall not sow. So if you're always looking at the wind, oh, it's too windy, we're not going to plant today, you might never plant. Okay? And he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. Oh, it looks like rain, we better not harvest, right? And of course, nowadays with the combines, big deal, it looks like rain. Quickly get it done before the rain, but in the old days, they're cutting down the stalks and putting them in stooks or whatever they called them, these bunches of grain, and then they would haul them away to get, treaded by the cattle or whatever they did. That's like if you swath it first instead of just straight headering, right? You got it laying on the... And that's how we look at it today, right? Oh, we better not swath because it looks like rain, okay? The Bible is telling us the person that always just looks at the weather isn't going to get anything done, okay? Verse 5, As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all. Okay? So he's telling us, you don't know the way of the Spirit. You don't know how the bones grow in a little baby when it's still with its mother. It hasn't been born yet. Okay? You don't know how that works. And so you don't know how God works everything, okay? Just because you see a cloud in the sky or you see the wind, you don't know if what you plant will prosper, okay? And it says in verse 6, In the morning sow thy seed. So whatever, as long as it's not pouring down rain, just go ahead and sow thy seed. In the evening withhold not thy hand. So do it in the evening too. For thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Because you don't know. God could bless it, and it could turn out good. Let me turn to Genesis chapter 26. And I guess I'm preaching this as much to myself as anybody else, because really, this looking at the weather and to make sure things are just perfect, it's a form of procrastination is what it is. Things got to be just right before you're going to do it. And the Bible says, sow your seed. You don't know whether it's going to work or not. Okay? You don't know, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper out of this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Okay, sometimes you think, oh, I planted it at the wrong time, and either too late or too soon or whatever. But then later, think the conditions changed. Maybe you had a wet year or maybe a dry year. It was better that you planted earlier or during that time, right? You don't know what will prosper. In Genesis chapter 26, verse 12, it says, "Then Isaac sowed in that land and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him." Now, if you do the math on today's grain farming, like wheat, 100 bushels an acre is considered pretty good. Okay? In the old days, 50, I think, was considered good. Like today's day, in modern agriculture, 100 bushels an acre is good. And if you would get an average over the whole field of 100 bushels an acre, that'd be really good. Now, I think I looked it up, and I forget the exact numbers, but basically they would seed about 1.1 million seeds per acre. Okay? And a bushel is about 1 million seeds. It depends on the size of the seed. Okay? But this is just some numbers I saw on the internet. Now, if you get 100 bushels, that's only a 90-fold increase. Okay? Because if you divide 1.1 into 100, that's about 90.09 or something like that. So this was a good increase. This isn't modern farming. This isn't hybrid seed. This isn't using Monsanto products or anything like that. This is just God blessing him, okay? You think, well, he had it good. He was a second-generation farmer. Abraham had all this money. He had all these cattle, the sheep, and everything, all these servants. Remember, he had 318 servants that he armed to go get back Lot? Yeah. But let's get some more context. Let's go to back up to verse 1. "And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of." So remember, Abraham went down into Egypt, but God's telling Isaac, don't go to Egypt. He says, dwell in the land that I will tell thee of. In verse 3, he says, sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee and will bless thee. So stay here in this land. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven. And this is talking about human seed, right? But he made his grain seed multiply too. "And will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws, and Isaac dwelt in Gerar." So he obeyed. Okay? And then, of course, there's a story about how he lies about his wife, not being his wife, and so on. But then we drop down to verse 12, and that's where I was reading from. "Then Isaac sowed in that land, receiving the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him." So they just had a famine, and he had faith to plant the seed. Okay? It's like if you're tempted, and I don't know how long seed lasted in those days or how they do now, but you'd be tempted, oh, is the famine really over? Maybe wait a year. But the thing is, you would at least plant some, right? Because you're famine, you're hungry, or you want to get something growing. And he planted, and he got 100-fold. "And the man waxed great, and went forward, and grew until he became very great." So Abraham, he was a great man. He had all these possessions. But it sounds like maybe that went downhill when Isaac took over, okay? And especially with the wells, as we see here in, actually first we'll read 14. "For he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth." So yeah, Abraham had this good setup. He had all these wells dug. He had all these animals to start from. But then they go plug up the water. Now, the big guy isn't around anymore. We'll see how his son handles it. He got some backbone, some toughness, and they go plug up the wells. And the thing is, in the cattle business or any kind of livestock business, if you don't have water, you don't have livestock. You get dead stuff. So in the old days, they didn't just have municipal water. You could pump out, your tap. They had to have a well. And okay, so they plugged up all the wells. Verse 16, and Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water, which he had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. So instead of sitting there whining, all the conditions aren't right, like we had this good setup, now I guess, we got no water, he just got to work. He just started digging wells again. Verse 19, Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found their well of spring water. Now, if you're digging a well and you can get to spring water, that's good. That means water's under pressure. Okay? It might be flowing, it might fill up a pond that you dig. So that's even better than finding water in a well. But, in verse 20, the herdmen of Gerar described Isaac's herdmen, saying, the water is ours. Yeah, after he digs it, right? He didn't say that before they dug it. Let them do the work, and then we'll take it over. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well and strove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitnah. Kind of a pattern here. In verse 22, and he removed from thence and digged another well, for that they strove not, and called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord hath made room for us, we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba. And the Lord appeared unto him the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants digged a well. So he gets blessed with 100-fold crop. And what does he do? He's thankful for it. He builds an altar, calls upon the name of the Lord. Okay? Now, if God gives us something good, we should be thankful for it, because he might not give it to us again if we're ungrateful. Just like if your parents treat you with something nice and I didn't want chocolate ice cream, I want white or vanilla. It's like, okay, kids aren't getting ice cream for a long time now. So it's good when we're grateful to God. We drop down verse 32. So between verse 25 and 32, Abimelech comes with his men and they want to make a deal with him. They're seeing Isaac's growing, he's becoming a powerful force. They want to make a deal that they're not going to fight. And so they come make a deal. And in verse 32, this is the same day, and it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said unto him, We have found water. And he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. So I think Isaac is a good example of somebody. I don't think he was somebody that was so worried about the weather that he didn't get his work done. He just did it. Okay? It doesn't tell us that here, but you see this attitude he had. Okay, the wells are plugged up, let's just dig them. Because what else are you going to do? Just let the cattle die? Like, you're going to haul water from a long way? It just wouldn't work. So this idea of procrastination and conditions having to be just right before you'll actually do something. Go to Matthew chapter 2. Matthew chapter 2, just about the beginning of the New Testament there. Matthew 2, verse 13. This is a story about Mary and Joseph and Jesus, okay? And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. So he's getting this warning. You better run, because this king wants to kill Jesus, right? He wants to kill the young child. And so he didn't just get up in the morning and go, no. Verse 14, when he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and he departed to Egypt. He didn't procrastinate one bit. He said, God gave me a warning, I better leave now. And you hear stories about the Mennonites in Russia. And it's like all of a sudden somebody got a feeling, if we don't leave now, we're never going to get out. You hear all sorts of stories like that. And then you hear, they should have left. God must have had mercy on them and let them think that they should leave right then, because otherwise they would have gotten captured and killed. And so Joseph was right to leave right now. Okay. Now that doesn't mean we should always just do everything right now. There's such a thing as patience. There's such a thing as planning, right? So how does this apply to us? Okay, this whole idea of sowing. And not everybody here is a farmer, and don't think any of us are grain farmers, although we have gardens, right? Some of us at least. So, and one other thing that I wonder about, like Noah, who's preaching for a long time, and we know that if somebody goes forth, weeping, bearing precious seed, will doubtless come again, bring their sheaves with them. So Noah preaching must have gotten people saved, but yet there's only his family that was on the ark. You think, there must have been people that heard the preaching, yeah, God's going to flood this earth. There must have been at least a few people that were curious about it. But they must have just procrastinated and put it off. Well, I'll dig into that sometime when I got some time. And then all of a sudden, God closes the door on the ark and it starts raining. It's too late, right? So those people that at least were curious about it, they should have dug into it and right away and then believed in God on the ark. So how does this apply to us? So if we're saved, we're not going to miss the boat as far as going to heaven, right? We're going to go to heaven if we're saved. Well, the one way we can apply it is, to physical planting and to our personal life, like planting the garden. Okay. Now, obviously, you don't want to do it too early because of the frost, right? You're just going to freeze everything. But just to have the ideal conditions. If you're worried about that, plant some now, plant some later, and it might all be the same height later and get the same fruit later. Because if we always wait for the perfect day, okay, and then if we wait for the perfect day to do this thing, and pretty soon summer's over, or it's getting later, and oh good, now's the perfect day, I'm going to cut my hay, right? Like the people that cut hay, you're kind of watching the weather because you don't want it to rain on your hay that you've got laying there, you want it to dry. Okay, but now you got this perfect day. Okay, get out the hay vine, we're going to get it going. Oh shoot, we put it away last season, it was broken and we didn't fix it. So now you waste your perfect day of cutting hay, going to town, getting parts, taking things apart and fixing it, right? When you could have gotten this ready ahead of time, or, okay, now we're going to go cut hay. It's not a really good day, but, the hay's tall enough, let's do it. And then, oh yeah, we've got to fix it. Well, now you got it fixed by the time you get a next good day, right? So we shouldn't procrastinate. We should, even if things aren't perfect. Okay, and this applies to so many things, like, oh, we don't have the perfect church, right? We got to listen to Brother Jim talk. Well, at least we got a gathering of like-minded folks here that were listening to preaching out of God's Word. And even if his preaching is, like he's not a good preacher or anything, at least we're using the right Bible, you'll get something out of it that way. Okay? There's so many ways, things that we can apply to. How about soul winning? Okay? Well, once they know all the answers to the objections, that's when I'll start soul winning, right? You're waiting for the conditions to be right. Or once I get all the sin out of my life, when's that ever going to happen? Once you're resurrected, right? Or once I'm not so shy anymore, then I'll start soul winning. Well, if that's the case, then I shouldn't even be soul winning. I'm probably the shyest one here. Not so much anymore, but I used to be quite a bit. So we got to be careful that we don't have to think that we get everything just lined up, all our ducks in a row, and then we can start something. And as it applies to it applies to soul winning, let's look at Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11. The Bible says, "Of whom we have many things to say and hard to be uttered, seeing you're dull of hearing." Okay? And I think the writer of Hebrews was Paul. And he's saying, you've got a lot of things to teach them, but they're dull of hearing. You're tired of listening, right? Maybe falling asleep during the service or whatever, right? But they're dull of hearing. They're just blah, 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 blah. That's what it sounds like coming from the front, right? And he wants to teach them a lot, but they're already dull of hearing. You're just going to keep going on and on and on. No, you're not. It's useless. I heard somebody say, the mind will only handle what the seat can endure, or something like that. Once you get tired of sitting physically, then you're just not going to listen, right? But he's saying he's got all these things to tell them, but they're hard to be uttered because they're dull of hearing. For the time ye ought to be teachers. He's telling the people he's preaching to, to the Hebrews, you guys should be teachers already, okay? But ye have need that one teach you again. Okay? You ought to be teachers. Ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk, not of strong meat. So these people have been Christians already. They should be teaching other people, but they still got to go back to drinking milk and can't handle the strong meats. Verse 13, for everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. You might say, well, that's me. I'm still using milk, okay? Spiritually speaking. I'm still a babe. Well, the thing is, how do you get onto the strong meat? Keep drinking milk and start trying a little bit stronger meat until pretty soon you're eating jalapenos, right? Verse 14, but strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. You don't have all the objections figured out when somebody, oh, no, once saved, always saved can't, because look at Hebrews 10 or Hebrews 6. Hey, you don't need to know an answer to everything. Always point them to what you do know, that, hey, look at all these verses that say it's grace through faith, it's not of yourselves, it's a gift of God, all these different things that you can show them. You don't need to know everything to go soul winning, okay? But the way we can handle strong meat is by reason of use. You try it out, you learn. Oh, I didn't have an answer for that guy that time. Well, when I get back, we'll look it up in the Bible or ask somebody and, okay, yeah, that's what that verse means. And especially in light of this verse, you're just misinterpreting it wrong. You can't lose your salvation, right? So by reason of use, that's how you get better. And that goes with anything, any skill, right? The first time that you want to use a saw, okay? Your saw wants to bind, like say it's a skill saw, and wants to pull back maybe. Hopefully, whoever's teaching you showed you what to do and you don't hurt yourself. But anything, carpentry, electrical, mechanical, you're not going to, let's say flying an airplane, you're not going to fly an airplane solo the first time, okay? Because that might be your last time, okay? You just get better with things if you try it. Okay, let's say you want to build something, okay? Don't start your first project building this big house. Start with a box or something, or a board with some holes drilled in it or something, okay? Or practice pounding nails straight without bending it. There's steps. You get better and better and better. Pretty soon you're a master cabinet builder, okay? And you start out just trying to cut wood or nail wood. And the same thing goes with spiritual things. With more use and more use, you get better and better. And if we wait till we got everything perfect, then there'll probably come up another reason, another excuse that we don't do it, right? Oh, it's windy. It's it's cloudy. Yeah, we won't harvest today because it's cloudy, right? Well, there's a good example of somebody that didn't procrastinate. And that's John chapter 4. John chapter 4, and this is the woman at the well. Okay. John chapter 4, verse 25. John chapter 4, verse 25, the Bible says, the woman saith unto him, I know that Messiah is coming, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things. Jesus saith unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. And upon this came his disciples, and marveled that he talked with the woman, yet no man said, what seekest thou? Or why talkest thou with her? And obviously this woman believed what Jesus said there in 26 there, I speak unto thee am he. Because look what happens. She doesn't question him about it. She leaves her water pot. Verse 28. Woman then left her water pot and went her way into the city and saith to the man, come see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? Then they went out of the city and came unto him. So she doesn't waste any time. Same day, not even just the same day, the same hour, she goes and starts telling people about Jesus Christ and saying, hey, look, this guy's got to be Christ. It's not like she's questioning, is this Christ? No, is not this the Christ? Like, you got to believe that this is Jesus Christ. And then the people, they believed her and they came onto him. Okay, so that's soul winning. What other things can we apply this procrastinating or waiting till you got all your ducks in a row? One thing that just popped into my mind is these people that want to be missionaries, right? They got to go to, all these churches and get all this money together and get people to support them even before they're in the mission field. And they got to learn their language. No, learn your language now so that once there's an opportunity, then you can go right away. Okay, you don't have to go to Bible school. Like people want to be pastors, they're going to Bible school so they can become a pastor. How about now when you're sitting in church, you pay attention, you listen, you read your Bible now already. You say, well, I don't have, I'm not married yet, I don't have 2 children. Get it? Be ready now. In Ezra 7:6, the Bible says, this Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses, which the Lord God Israel had given. And the king granted him all his requests according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him. So he was a ready scribe. He was already ready. Okay? If God sees that you're applying yourself and you're making yourself ready, God's got a job for you. Okay? You say, well, I'm a woman, I'm never going to be a pastor. No, but you can go soul winning. You can teach your children. Just imagine, you can teach your children, get them off milk and get them eating that strong meat. Okay? Some of your children might be pastors or at least good church members, right? And good soul winners. So we should make ourselves ready ahead of time and say, well, it's too windy outside. What does that have to do with reading the Bible? But you know what I mean? Oh, I'm still young. Well, it doesn't matter. You can read. Well, I'm not a good reader. Well, the way you get better is by reason of use. Okay. Another good example of somebody that didn't procrastinate was Elisha. Okay, and if you're interested, you can look at it 1 Kings 19. But basically, Elijah comes and throws his mantle on Elisha, and Elisha says, hey, I'll just kiss my mom and dad goodbye. And what he does is he kills the oxen that he was plowing with and has a barbecue, and then he follows Elijah. Right? He didn't procrastinate. No, I'm not quite ready. I haven't gone to Bible school, blah, blah, blah. No. He's, okay, I'm just going to say goodbye, and I'm gone. I'm with you. A bad example, you can go look there, Jeremiah 38. Jeremiah 38. Jeremiah 38, verse 17. And this is in a dark time of Israel. Okay? Really, really bad. This is just before they could go to Babylon. After David, Solomon was good until a point, and his kingdom went downhill because he worshipped all these false gods that all his wives worshipped. And then, there's good kings, but, it steadily, went downhill. People like Hezekiah went up again, and Josiah, and some Jehoshaphat, and some of these good kings. But Zedekiah here, God is just, he's done the mercy on Israel. You're going to have it bad. But even then, he gives him some mercy. Jeremiah 38:17. Then said Jeremiah unto Zedekiah, thus saith the Lord, the God of hosts, the God of Israel, if thou wilt assuredly go forth unto the king of Babylon's princes, then thy soul shall live, and this city shall not be burned with fire, and thou shalt live and thine house. Okay, so he's still giving him that he could save his life and his family's life. Yeah, Israel, like Judah, is going to be conquered, but at least you're going to have your life. And then verse 18, but if thou wilt not go forth to the king of Babylon's princes, then shall the city be given into the hand of the Chaldeans, and shall burn it with fire, and thou shalt not escape out of their hand. Okay? Well, you see, on one hand, it's really bad. The city's going to be burned, and, things are going to go bad. But if you give up, you're going to have your life. Say, okay, good, here's a way out. We're surrounded, we're hungry, and here's a way out. But what's his excuse? Look, verse 19. And Zedekiah the king said unto Jeremiah, I am afraid of the Jews that are fallen to the Chaldeans, lest they deliver me into their hand and they mock me. He's afraid of getting made fun of. Now, in your life, especially if you want to try something new, people, if they find out about it, they might make fun of you. Okay? Especially if you're trying to invent something new or a new way of doing something. Let's say you're farming with a new method, that not necessarily new, but just not popular in the area. Like, I'm not going to use this chemical pesticides or something, right? People will just laugh at you. Is that reason to not do something? Especially in this case, when God told him to do something that way. And people might make fun of us. We go to a church, where you have services in the middle of the week. Okay? Well, why are you doing that? Especially people that have just grown up, Sunday was church day. They make fun of you. But because you became a Christian, you're zealous for God, you actually come to church when the church has service. People make fun of you. Or you go soul winning, right? Because then you're really getting out of your comfort zone. People might mock you and make fun of you, at the door or otherwise. Doesn't matter. I don't care. Wind's blowing, clouds in the sky, people can make fun of you. Let's just do it. Let's go to Luke chapter 12. Luke chapter 12. So remember, he that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. Okay? So, another way you can apply this, like just in a personal life, okay, I want to do this one project, but I need that one tool, right? I gotta have that tool. And it's like, in the back of your mind, I could really use a handsaw, I could really use, these manual methods, but man, it would be nice to have a table saw, right? Or something like that. And it's like, why don't you just do the work you got with the tools you got? And I'm shooting myself in the foot preaching this right now, okay? But you can get at least some of the work done. Okay, maybe not the fine carpentry, but you can get some of the work done with the limited tools you have, right? Us guys, we always want the good tools because that makes our life so much easier, right? But sometimes we could get some of the work done with less quality tools. Or instead of waiting for, the best saw, let's say you want a saw stop because if you stick your finger in there, it's gonna boom, it's gonna stop the blade. Just be careful and get a mastercraft, right? Like, just get a cheap one, or just be thankful it's not a Harbor Freight or Princess Auto table saw. I don't know if they make table saw, but you can make do with less, right? Little as much when God is in it. So if you're there in Luke chapter 12, look at verse 35. Let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. Okay, loins be girded about, like, you got your belt on, you got your clothes out, and your lights are burning, you're awake, your lights are on. And ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord. You're going to be like people that are waiting for their boss to show up. You're not going to be just relaxed. You're ready, you're expecting your boss to show up. When he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Oh no, they don't just got to scramble and quickly hide stuff when Jesus is here and whatever, take their nose ring out and cover up their tattoos and whatever. No, they're going to be ready when Jesus comes. They're going to have their loins girded about, they're going to have their lights burning, and they can open the door immediately, right? Blessed are those servants whom the Lord when he comes shall find watching. Verily I say unto you that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve. And this sounds like a feast in heaven. God is going to be happy. You see, he comes back and sees us working. He sees us ready. Not just, I wasn't expecting you because, I don't know, whatever excuse. I don't got any peanut butter or whatever. Right? Like, one excuse is as good as another one. So blessed are those servants that are watching when Jesus comes back. And if you shall come in the second watch or come in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. And this know, that if the goodman of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not have suffered his house to be broken through. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when ye think not. So he's going to come as a thief in the night, but he is telling them, if he had known what hour the thief would come, right, you would have watched. And so nobody knows the hour when Jesus is going to come back. But there's things that are going to happen before then that we're going to be ready. And we're going to know, okay, it's getting closer and closer. We've already had famines, we already had pestilences, we already had wars, and the Antichrist and the beast and the numbers all out there already. Okay, we know it's coming now, right? Not like some preacher that they're just all confused because they thought they'd be gone and well, I must not be saved because I didn't leave. in the secret rapture, right? No, we're ready. If you're smart, you're already going to be watching, you're already going to be ready because you've already studied the Word of God. And Peter said unto him, verse 41, and Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable unto us, or even to all? So he's saying, is this just for us or for everybody? And the Lord said, Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he hath. So, blessed is that servant that when he comes, he finds actually doing, not just sitting and planning. He's actually doing. He's not thinking, well, I don't got all my maps printed out, I don't have this done. Just go do some soul winning, right? Or whatever it is. This can apply to cleaning up our lives. Someday I'm going to clean up my life. When tribulation hits, I better clean up my life so I'll have it a little easier or whatever. No, clean up your life now, and then when Jesus comes back, he's going to already find you doing the things that he wanted you to do and that he commanded you to do. Verse 44, Of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he hath. And if that servant say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, it's going to be a long time before the rapture, right? It's not going to happen yet. And shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink, and to be drunken, like he's boozing it up. Verse 46, The Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him in sunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. And that servant which knew his Lord's will, and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. Okay? You knew what Jesus wanted, and you didn't do it, you're going to be beaten with many stripes. Okay? Now, I don't know if this applies to when Jesus comes back, or just in general, right? This applies to in general as well. If you knew what God wanted you to do, and you didn't do it, you're going to be beaten with many stripes. But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him who will ask the more. So I think most of us have listened to good preaching, right? We've heard hard preaching. We know we should get the sin out of our life. And if we don't, we could get beaten with many stripes. And this isn't just talking about it's going to be later. We could be beaten with many stripes any day. We could die, right? Now, if you didn't know, well, you're still going to get beaten just with fewer stripes, okay? And that's not a reason to not read the Bible and, then I'll get a less of a spanking. No. You try to read it and understand it and do the best you can so that when he comes, he's going to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant, right? Nothing but a beating. So let's bring it back to soul winning, okay? We'll go 4 chapters back to chapter 8. Let's go done here. Chapter 8, verse 9. And his disciples asked him, saying, What might this parable be? And he said, Unto you it is let's look at verse 4. When much people were gathered together and were come to him out of every city, he spake by a parable. A sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and was trodden down, and the fowls of the air devoured it. So remember, he that regardeth the wind, or he that observeth the wind shall not sow. And here is a parable about sowing, about planting. Sowing is just sowing seed, planting seed. Okay? So here's a sower, he went out to seed, and some fell beside, and people just stepped on it, and the birds ate it. Okay? Verse 6. And some fell upon a rock, and as soon as it was sprung up, it withered away because it lacked moisture. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up with it and choked it. And others fell on good ground, and sprang up and bare fruit an hundredfold. And when he had said these things, he cried, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Okay, so something that goes along with this observing the wind and you're not planting. Well, let's say you got a piece of land, you got however small it is, you're in town, and you want to plant a garden. The soil isn't good here. So I'm going to wait for one day when I can afford to buy a bigger piece of land, and then I'm going to plant a garden, right? Because it's where I get fertile soil. Well, you could kind of look at this the same way. These sowers, they sowed on beside the path. It went on rocks, some among thorns, and some on good ground. They didn't just go to the receptive people. Now, yeah, if you got receptive ground, plant it there first. But you got to go plant it everywhere. Okay? So you don't have to have that perfect ground. You know, we've already done most of the poor areas in Winkler. In fact, we've done most of the Winkler already. But you never know, even in some of those richer areas, you get somebody whose heart is tender towards God and is willing to listen. And, you know, once, when I was first learning how to go sowing, we were down in Arizona, and I was with my daughter and one other guy that knew how to go sowing. And I figured, oh man, this seems like a richer part. But then, you get to one door, and the guy's mom just died, and he was willing to listen, and he got saved. So even in the richer parts, you can sometimes have a little patch of good ground. And of course, in verse 9, the disciples asked him what this parable is, and I think you've heard it many times. He explains to them, what it's about. In verse 10, well, let's read verse 9. And his disciples asked him, saying, what might this parable be? And he said, unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to others in parables, that seeing they might not see, and hearing they might not understand. And that's talking about reprobates right there, right? It's talking about people preaching to them so they won't see. Like, obviously there's people that they want to see, and then there's people, God's given them over to a reprobate mind. But then look at let's drop down to verse 18. So he explains the parable. In verse 18 he says, take heed therefore how ye hear, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given. And so whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken, even that which he seemeth to have. Okay, so you got a 1 acre yard, and I don't want to do anything with it because it's only 1 acre. Well, God might take that away from you. You got to go in an apartment in the city. That would be terrible. Okay, now people hearing this that live in the city might think that's terrible, but those of us that have lived in a rural area, especially if we grew up there, most of us wouldn't fathom wanting to live in the city. The only reason we moved to the city is to be in a good church and to go soul winning. And for a job, that's the only way you could provide for your family. But take heed how you hear. He's telling people, make sure, watch out how you're listening and how you're obeying. Because how you listen, you got to do with what you have. You make use of what you have. Because God gave you some understanding of the Bible, okay? And if you don't further that, you don't sow it, or you don't read more into it and you don't apply it to your life in any way, shape, or form, God might take it and you might go backwards, okay? You take what you have, or what you seem to have, and they'll take it away. Now this applies to people that are listening to the gospel too. Now people, God gave them, somebody maybe gave them a verse or something, right? And that maybe triggers something in their mind. Okay, I should maybe look into that more. And they don't do anything with it, eventually it'll be too late. Okay? You hear so many stories about people that were unsaved, but they're they pray to God just to give them wisdom, and they're desiring it, and God will give them more, right? If people are good stewards, God can give them more. Okay, but if people are wasteful stewards, you're just a bad steward. We'll take away what you got. So we should be thankful. We should make use of what we have. That means your talents, and your possessions, and so on. But then also in a spiritual sense, you've been given good teaching, and make use of it. You get exercised by use of your senses of preaching. You get better at it, like soul winning, and even just applying it to your life. Okay, somebody that just got saved, but they were leading a really worldly life. Okay, if they try to make an effort at cleaning up their life, God will bless that and help them with that effort. But if they don't try at all, they might be taking away what they even have. You know what I mean? Their life might get worse because God will prune the vineyard and might put some manure around it, some dung. But eventually, if you're not doing anything, God might just yank you and it's time to go. So let's close with Psalm 126. Psalm 126. Sometimes it's not just the weather, right? Like the weather is obviously can represent a lot of things, but sometimes it's your attitude. Like, I'm just so depressed. I just don't feel like doing anything. Never mind working for God or working on my projects. I'm just depressed, right? You're sad. Maybe one of your family just died or something. This is a really good psalm here. Verse 1. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dreamed. Okay? They were in captivity for 70 years. Now finally, they get their captivity again. They get to be free. They were like they were dreaming. Then was their mouth filled with laughter. Like they were happy. And our tongue was singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The people around notice that God has blessed you and that you're trying to live your life for God. The Lord hath done great things for us wherever we are glad. So they're thankful, right? Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Okay? He that goeth forth and weep, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. And this applies so much to sowing, right? Sow in tears, reap in joy. You go forth weeping, like you're serious about it, and you feel bad for the people that are going to hell. You'll doubtless come in. If you're serious about it and you pray to God, God's eventually going to let you get somebody saved. Okay? And when I first went sowing, I prayed to God that I would be able to get somebody saved. And then you get multiple people saved a year, and it's like, wow. Like 20 years ago, I didn't even have the right gospel, but I would never have believed if somebody would have told me, okay, you're going to go and soul winning. Like, no way, I'm too sharp, right? But that people actually listen and believe the gospel, wow, that's amazing. That God has given us this powerful word that we can pull people out of the fire. And we sow in tears. Like, what's so sad about going sowing? It's not sad. It's just sad the people that actually aren't going to believe, that the seeds that you plant that aren't actually going to grow. That's the sad part. But if you go forth and sow anyway, doesn't matter about the wind. And I'm not saying you got to be tough. -40, you got to still go out. Go sowing. No, you don't have to go outside -40. That's dangerous. In Toronto, they think it's dangerous -18. Okay? So pick an apartment building, right? And obviously we don't have so many that we can get into, but we'll do something, right? And so let's not just watch the weather, and I'm not just talking about weather. Weather just represents a lot of things, stumbling blocks in our life. Just imagine if David, like if he would have done like the rest of them, this big giant, I can't do it. But no, he knew God had already helped him in other ways, right? He had barehanded fought this lion and this bear, and God helped him prevail. God can help you with the giants in your life too, okay? Doesn't matter if your giants are the weather or if it's something else, God can help you. We should quit procrastinating, just figure out what we're going to do. Now, that doesn't mean you don't plan. You have to plan. You got to take time, sharpen your axe. Don't just try to cut down and forest the trees with a dull axe. That's stupid, okay? You got to plan. You got to figure out, okay, can I meet this army of 500,000 with my 200,000? The Bible talks about things like that too. Yeah. Because if you can't, you're going to send ambassadors and try to make peace before they get here. Okay? Or you figure out, can I afford to build this tower? Do I have enough manpower, materials, and money? Because otherwise you're halfway done and then it just stands empty. Okay? No, there's such a thing as planning. But don't wait till Monday morning to figure out what you're doing Monday morning. Okay? Remember, I'm pointing all the fingers back at me too. Like, on Friday, figure out what you're going to do the next week already. It'll just get that much easier to actually get something done. Okay? Because otherwise, like I said, you're there, you're ready to cut hay, and then, oh shoot, I got to fix my hay bind again. Okay? You got to get things ready ahead of time, and then Don't wait for the ideal day. Just once it's a day that is possible, let's just do it. Okay, so let's pray. Thank you, God, for your word, and thank you that even though we're just human people, that you can still use us and help us to do good things through your word, and just bless us and give us strength physically, but also spiritually. Help us be confident and give us the wisdom too, and help us to exercise that wisdom by use and get people saved and live a good life for you, that when you come back, that you can be pleased with what we are doing.